My water. Sorry. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for hanging on there. Technical difficulties. I can't believe. Please let me know if you can see me. It appears that you can. To me, I can see myself, so that is a much better start. Let's see. Good morning, Martha. How are you? Right on the table, I've got your two letters that I'm working on. I'm hoping this isn't the old one. I'm hoping I'm actually live. Give me some feedback if you can to let me know. I know there's a bit of a delay. Can you check and see if I'm live?
I can check.
I have a feeling this is the older one because there's a lot of comments on here. You can see in here. Okay, great. Thank you. I am live. Let me go back and look at all the things you wrote. Good morning, everybody. Do you know what was happening there? I'm sure. Who could know? Who could know? I turned on my camera as usual. As you can see, I'm at home because we're expecting a snowstorm. So I was really leery about driving out into the countryside where my workspace is through these little country roads because I was afraid I was going to get stuck. It's due like right at the end of coffee time now. So I'm doing it from home, but that wasn't the problem. The problem was my computer forced me to do an update, and when it did, it canceled the camera. So I had to introduce the camera to the computer again. Camera, computer, how do you do? Oh, I'm great. Not really, not really. Sarcasm. I'm going to be great in a minute. Martha, how are you? I'm so glad you're there. I'm loving the two things that you chose. Crystal, good morning. Oh my gosh. I'm just reading your comments. Sheila, good morning in Benton City. Good. Catherine, good morning in Arizona. Linda, there you are. Good morning. I wonder if you all are getting snow. I don't know how bad the storm is going to be, but it was bad enough, the description of it, to make me want to stay here and not travel. Penny, good morning in rainy North Carolina. Is that a shot of alcohol? I'm gonna have it. I'm gonna have it. Crystal, you punch and hook with cross legs. Oh, you're talking about posture and stuff. That's a great use of time. I'm gonna have to see if I can read back on the thread. Well, good morning, everybody. Good afternoon, Anita. Good to see you. Teresa, good to see you. Penny, everybody's in. Julie, okay, great. Thank you. Catherine, Martha, everybody's back. Wendy, great to see you. Thank you, Wendy. I feel like I struggle more than a normal person would. I am so bad on the computer, and I'm not going to start, but I hate how it forces you to do these updates and then it changes things. Like even in the car, it forced my GPS program on my phone to update. And when it did, it defaulted to no highways. And on the next day, I was taking a trip to like New York State, and it's normally 4 hours, and it took like 6 hours. And I was like, this is so wacky, you know? It was nice back roads, nice adventuring and stuff. And then the next day I was traveling somewhere else and I knew how to go there and it wasn't putting me on the highway. It was because it did this default thing. You have to really be some kind of a wizard or a psychic or, I guess, competent to be able to use the computer. Anyway, I'm so happy that you're all there. I'm so sorry about that delay. I was about to, thanks, Carol. I was at welcome. I was about to throw the towel in and get really in a bad place, but instead I persevered. Woohoo! Brandy, good morning. Good to see you. Lori from Texas, good morning. Good to see you. April, thank you. Amy, see, we're getting some different people because we're a little bit later. That's great. Snowy in Michigan. Oh, I'm not surprised, but I hope it's at least lovely. Jennifer in Nebraska. Okay, very cold. 14. That's very cold. Hello, Joelle. How are you? Oh, good. Heather, hey. Okay, so I was doing some dyeing this morning because somebody ordered three sets, and I had most of each set, and I didn't have also. I was doing some dyeing, and it made me want to put on my ombre shirt. Have you ever done this thing, whether you're a dyer or not, where you dip a shirt in bleach and it does half of it a different color? The only reason I was fooling around with it was because I saw that on Etsy people were doing it, and I thought, oh, let me have one of those shirts. Oh, those shirts are $70, and I thought, well, wait a minute, the plaid shirt itself is probably 20 at the store, and the bleach is another dollar, and it actually works really well. So maybe this is an upcoming thing, doing that kind of color thing. So removing the color. So, I'm working before I get going with the June Myles episode that I am super super excited about because I've had my nose in that book since yesterday. Besides putting orders out, of course, I've been working on the February kit, and I've had a few people asking when it's coming out, and it's coming out on February 1st, and I'm just getting ready for it, and I'm not going to do any spoilers right now because I feel like I've got a great idea. And do you know, like, do you have the same experience of when you're starting a new project and you've got that feeling of the blank canvas and you really want to challenge yourself by doing something that you know is not only outside your comfort zone, but outside your personal taste is an extra layer of difficulty. And I like a challenge. So I thought I would do something, and I'm going to give you some clues and see if you can guess figure out where I'm going with this February kit because I have it all drawn out and I'm going to start hooking it today. I was doing some dyeing. It's based on a fine artist who you certainly all know, who is now copyright free. So I'm able to use a nice image. I'm doing colors like this and colors like this, like the burnt jewel colors. I'm doing some stuff with wool, different weights of wool. These are still wet, so they're drying. Different weights of wool. I'm missing gold. I'm not a huge fan of the yellow family, but I do have a ton of metallics, color changing metallics that I ordered that are going into the kits. So it's going to be based on a fine artist whom you certainly know, a very famous image that I think is going to work really well for Valentine's Day, for February being the month of love and kisses. That was a clue. And it's got a lot of metallic in it. So if you can puzzle that one out, you might be ahead of the game and figure out who the inspiration for tomorrow's, not tomorrow's, whenever February 1st is. It's coming up very soon, terribly soon. I'll keep my eyes open in case anybody has a great guess. Somebody put in a great idea yesterday for a bingo episode. So let me know what you think about this. I want to evolve this idea with you too. The idea, because I had said, like, give me some ideas of things that you would like to do for bingo as well. Because I want to start gathering earlier so it's not such a stretch and a push for me the day before. Yes, you've got it. You've got it. Crystal, you're so good. It is. It's going to be a variation on Klimt's The Kiss. The thing that I'm not a huge fan of Klimt, which is a good reason to go in that direction, right? That's a good reason to go there. And I'm not a great fan of yellow. And if you can picture the image, you can come on camera. The kiss, it's a lot of gold. Guess who it is? Can I get a kiss? Ooh, you little stinker. I got two cuties here. This is Joss. I'm sure you remember the great designer. She's about to release another set of yarn. You're going to do the modern art yarn with me, right?
Well, you told me about it.
I gave her the concept, and she's going to be the person who puts the labor in, right? You're going to be that person. You're going to do another release, and you're working on some of your new designs too. But right now, school is really killing us, and Buttons sometimes kills us too. He drives us nuts. So yeah, so it's a good reason to go for that image. I think it's a nice romantic image. I'm doing it even more stylized, and I'm doing it with slightly different, very different colors. But it's going to be a kit that is filled with lots of different fibers. So I'm dyeing wool. We're going to do straight wool. And lots of different kinds of yarn and novelty stuff because I'm trying to get that feel of busyness and abstraction and pixelation in the background. And I'm going to try doing that with a mixture of yarn. So it's going really well so far. I hope that idea, here, baby, let me get back forward. I hope that idea sounds promising. Oh, people are saying hi to Buttons and you. Those cuties. Okay, so yeah, so somebody sent this great idea for the bingo game, and she said, why not do bingo theme colors, like wool colors? And I thought, okay, I think there's a great idea here. There's certainly the germ of an idea starting for me anyway. What if we did a bingo game? Because I know a lot of you dye. Do you think it's possible to do a bingo game where you send me a photo of a color that you dyed, like one of your own recipes, and I'll put in a bunch of my own recipes too, bit for bit, grain for grain. I wonder if we could work toward having a bingo game about all color, so it's a super colorful card that looks like a paint chip from the hardware store, and then we share the recipes, and then I could put together a little online book that you could download for free with all of our color recipes in it. I thought that could be a really fun thing, right? It's a little bit of work, but I'm very happy to do it because I think it will be a nice fun sharing project. We always share our images, which I always want to do, but we could also share some of our secret recipes and stuff like a little cookbook or something. I thought that could be a really nice episode. Good morning, Donna. How are you? So let's think about that. If you do any dyeing, think about if you have a special color that you've used for something special, a place in one of your rugs that it was important that you had a specific color and you figured out how to get that color there, or just your favorite color to use from Cushing or Prochem or Dharma or wherever you get your dyes, something like that, right, Crystal? It could be fun. It could be really fun. I love the idea of sharing our recipes too. I know they're top secret sometimes, but my feeling is that with creative people, I hope I am, I know you are, with creative people, you can share some of your secrets because you know what? You're going to have another great idea tomorrow. You're going to have another great recipe idea tomorrow. So if you share today's, who cares? It's just good karma, isn't it? Hello, Kirsten from Vermont. Oh, oh, good, Martha. I'm glad you like that idea. I'm gonna evolve that a little bit. So let's come, and I really like it. We'll see if I can get that together. I've got almost a month to do it, right? So let's go back to June Myles. I wrote to her earlier and I said, is it okay if I directly give out your email? I haven't heard back from her yet. She's not a slave to social media, which I really appreciate and admire. Um, so I'll find out if it's okay to give her direct email if you are interested in this book. I'm just going to remind you, we started looking at this phenomenal book yesterday called If Wool Could Talk. And it is by June Myles. And she is not only gorgeous, she is such a lovely person and talent, like unbelievable talent. So we started looking at her book and we looked at her first two rugs. Let me just recap a little bit. I might go over, but it is what it is. It's been a weird day. Remember her second one was the one, the X's and O's with the violets for her mother. That was the one that was a gift. And then we quickly looked at the rooster, which was the only commercial pattern that she had ever done. And when she did it, she gave that wonderful message to us and to everybody who hooks and punches. A pattern is just the beginning. Get out the Sharpie, add eggs like in a frying pan for a sun, and add those rays or those little Art Deco skyscrapers around the border. Add that wild background. This is her first ever rug. So again, what a great and liberating message it is to tell another hooker when you get a commercial pattern, particularly if you're a beginner, it's just a beginning. It's just a suggestion. She specifically said it ain't a paint by number. You do not have to do this little piece like this, number 13 in color number 45. You don't. You do what you want to do and you make it sing for you, not for the people who put out paint by number. They already made their money. Once you buy it, it's yours. You do what you want with it. So we were looking at some of her images, and I meant to tell you a little bit about herself. I was reading about her online. There's very little out there on her. But luckily I met her and I got a lot from her in our conversation during the hook, and it was a few hours, which was really nice. I remember, I'm not seeing it on the back of the book, but I remember reading that she was, I think, she went to school for physics or something like that. I think it was physics, science. So she's obviously quite bright, but it made me think when I showed you the Beatles yesterday, she had two Beatles rugs, that science is one of her interests. So it's very natural that she would go toward like something that looks a bit like a periodic table, and it's kind of a catalog of Beatles. Um, so that was the one I think we ended off with yesterday. Let's look at some of the others because she really is extraordinary. Good morning, Sharon. I'm warm inside the house right now, but they're expecting snow, and I'm just wondering how much. That's always the question. How much? I brought a ton of work home from the space so I could get all of the orders out by tomorrow. So it's good to be busy when you're snowbound, right? That's Longfellow, right? Snowbound. So she's done a lot of cute pieces. I don't want to show you every page. I want to show you the ones that I feel are the most meaningful. I think I mentioned yesterday she's done a lot of hooking of men. Now that is a novelty. Can you think of a lot of rugs that are hooked in the image of a man? It's very, very uncommon, isn't it? And I don't know why, because men can be, I don't know if beautiful is the right word, but beautiful as a subject, right? You see male models when you're an art student, you're studying male models as often as you're studying female models. Those are supposed to be chicken feeders or waterers. That's been very creative information. Okay, good. So this one is interesting. This is one of her more sort of political ones. I'm going to show you the image first. The image is called Simply Galling. So let me show it to you. Let me back it up so it's in focus. You can see that there's something going on here that's a bit different than a subject that we normally would see in a hooked rug. Okay? So I'll show you again, but this is what she's saying about the rug. She says, initially this rug was inspired by a wood carving from Mysore circa 1790. I was hooking while listening to the run-up to the Iraq War, and frankly, I found France's behavior at the Security Council galling. So I transferred the gendarmes, so policemen's, mauling by a tiger into a commentary on French arrogance. And she wrote, Think Charles de Gaulle. She said, that said, I still love France. Though this rug predates the men's series, she put it into the category with the men. So she is making a political statement with this rug upon hearing the news. Remember those days of the Iraq War, there was a lot of news that was galling. But this was her way of expressing the anger that she felt about the tone that was struck at that time by the French. She's got very close ties to France. You'll see she studied at the Sorbonne when she was younger, and she spent a lot of her life in France. So she's in a position where she could say, this is galling, but I still love France. So I want to show you a couple of her other men. When I think this book was put out, I think she was still working on her men, and I think she is still working on her men. Because when I saw her last year at the Hook Inn at Reading, she was working on a man. So it's still going on. It's still in her to do this. But this one here, I'll just show you quickly, and then I'll get to some of the ones that have more stories. This is Manservant. And Good Morning, Beverly. And this one, let me see, get a better picture. Whoop, I'm sorry. This one is Welcome. Now, isn't that different? I mean, it really is so different, isn't it? Look at that detail. So this is part of her men's series. Turbaned, bejeweled, insignia, and gold trappings, along with the explosion of color in the Mongol miniatures, beckon me again and again. She's very inspired by trips to museums, which now, of course, is shut off for the moment. But she's very inspired by art and artifacts from times gone by and other places, exotic places. She wrote, this time, it was the textures and patterns in the embroidered robe and the striped pantaloons that wore the lure. Such a fine fellow, an elite servant, with the seal of discretion on his lips, seemed a great way to express welcome. Interestingly, a lovely Indian saleslady in New York City helped me to choose the combination of ribbons used to bind the rug that was destined to be a wall hanging. I'm going to show you that one more time. This one here. So different. So her men's series, again, is evolving. This is the one that I use. This is called The Sage. She wrote in 2007 when this book came out, this is the most recent but not the last in the men's series. Shouldn't everyone have a philosopher in her life with sharp eyes, open ears, a brief tongue, and a scholarly tam on his head? Whether a beard signals wisdom or just lots of experience is debatable. Then again, I'm also attracted to goats with those long chin hairs on their chinny chin chins. So this is her idea of a sage. Shouldn't everybody have a sage in their life? Someone who can really listen and say something really useful back, right? Matisse Man, I'm not going to show you all of them because I want you to enjoy the book if you're going to order the book. The book is $30. That's the original cost of the book, and she has some. Again, if you're just joining us and you weren't here yesterday, don't buy it for like 100, 200, 300 because it's out there at those prices. June herself has these books for $30, which is the original price. The publisher, I think, isn't in existence anymore, but she's got a bunch of them. And of course, when she sells out, that's it. So this one I have to show too. This one is the chef rug, Shay JBM. So Shay, her place. Those are her initials. Let me show you first. This is just such a different rug. I mean, I haven't seen anything like this. I just haven't. Look at the detail. Let me pull it in and then pull it out. Look at the detail in his face and his shirt, the berries in his hand. She says, I like to cook, but who among us would not like to have our own personal chef? I went to college in the South where we had great black cooks. A favorite treat was tinker cake. This is the first time I've heard about tinker cake. Always chocolate cake with chocolate ice cream on Tinker Day. Now, have you heard of Tinker Day? I'm assuming this is a real thing. Tinker Day, an unscheduled day with no classes, but a hike up Tinker Mountain with a lovely picnic at the top. So maybe this is something they made up at her school, Tinker Day, where you would just not maybe go to school and instead you would walk up Tinker Mountain with a picnic. If a paper was due or an exam pending, we always hoped that Tinker Day would be announced and that the deadline would be postponed. A mountain trek and tinker cake are still a highlight of my college reunions. So this is a tribute to Tinker Day and the last time there was a full-time kitchen staff in my life. So her chef rug, which she actually has on the floor of her kitchen. In fact, she says at the end of this book that when she sent all these rugs away to be photographed, I think it was her cat or her dog, maybe it was her dog, was so sort of forlorn because the rugs were normally all over her house. And she said, you sometimes forget how animals, what things mean to animals, because all the rugs have smells that the animals can smell, but not necessarily, not us. Hopefully, we don't smell the stuff that's around us too strongly, but the animals do. And they miss it when it's not there because it's part of their experience much more readily than it is part of ours. So I thought it was interesting that she named the rugs that were on the floor that the dog was missing while they were off being photographed because that's part of his life to lay on them and sniff them, and it's part of his reality check every day, and without them life is strange. So let me show you some others. I don't want to run too late. This one's called she goes into a chapter called Celebrations. So she moves from the chapter on men and the chapter on her early work to celebrations, and she says, once you've hooked enough rugs to cover the floors, walls, chairs, it's time to consider special occasion rugs that can be rotated out for special, times of the year. Among hookers, Christmas is probably the most popular theme, but my favorites are Groundhog Day, Halloween. Ironically, one occurs halfway between winter solstice and the spring equinox, and the other between summer solstice and the fall equinox. And both are reincarnations of ancient festivals. Until recently, neither had much commercial attention. That's true. So this is an interesting one she did. It's called Phil, as in Punxsutawney Phil. Will he or won't he? She did this in 2000. I'll tell you a little bit about this. You see Phil down at the bottom. So this is a rug for Groundhog Day with a question mark. Will he or won't he? It's always what everybody's thinking. Isn't that a fantastic composition? Look at the way she's whipped the edges. She does so much with edges. She often just uses like cottons or wools, almost like creating a binding like you would with clothing, like a bias binding, and wrapping that around and sewing it. As you often see with wool applique and different things like that. She does that often. But this is a beautiful, brilliant orange border, and just with a simple stick holding it up. Remember, she has the backyard with the woods. She described the roadkill one where the animal was hit by the car, and then she took the horn later and used that as part of the hanger. Interesting thought, thinking through not only your binding, your composition, and the hooking of the rug, but thinking through how you're going to display it too in a unique and special and fitting way is a really neat sideline, because you're never in a rush, right? Unless it's a gift. You have time to think these things through and make things just right for yourself. So about Phil, she says, she was invited to participate in an American-Japanese exchange of hooked rugs with Celebrate Life, as a theme. I chose one of my favorite holidays, which is Groundhog Day. Shadow or no shadow, February 2nd means that winter is on the downhill slope and spring will soon follow. Phil, of course, refers to the best known procrastinator, Punxsutawney Phil. This piece traveled to Japan and was a curiosity in Japan because there are no groundhogs in Japan. So I thought that was so neat. Oh, I wanted to show you one of the earlier ones. Hang on, let me just flip back a little bit. One of the ones I skipped, this one I skipped yesterday that I thought was great because I wanted to show you something to support it. So this one is called Nuts. The groundhog reminded me of it because this is one of a squirrel. This one is called Nuts. I love how she pulls so much she pulls everything from her life. She doesn't pull so much. She pulls everything from her life, but her house and her surroundings. So look at the motion. I know there's a little bit of a glare on one of the corners. Look at the motion in this one. It looks like a proper primitive, but it has a lot more. Look at the way the squirrel's legs are positioned on the T, like he's about to jump off a diving board. There's a suggestion of wind, but she's not using blue. She's using mossy, earthy, leafy, woodsy colors. And it gives it such a different sort of panache. And what she said in this one, she did this in 2002, nuts, exclamation point. She said, visit museums and artists' work are often a trigger for my own inspiration. I fell in love with Wayne Theobald's paintings of cakes and pies. I want to show you those in case you're not familiar. Not so obvious in reproductions of his works, but quite apparent in the real thing is his use of different colors to delineate edges. In other words, to outline. Nuts was an attempt to blend colors in the Theobaldesque style. So let me show you this one more time, knowing that she was inspired by this artist who does a lot with outline. And that's where all of that sort of graphic interest is coming in. So I want to show you a couple of his more famous works that she's talking about. This is exactly what she's talking about, the pies and the cakes. So you see how he's doing things with shadow and outlining. It's still very, very graphic. It's still very, very bare, but he's doing a lot with outline. And that's what she was going for with nuts. I think it's interesting to see the source because then you can get a real feel for what she's feeling and what she's thinking. So let's see, there's a whole bunch, but again, I'm skipping a lot because if you're interested in this book, I don't want to do a total spoiler. This is her boobooboo.com Halloween one that she did. And then this Halloween, you know, Halloween's my favorite too. Trick or Treat. So different, huh? Look at that border again. I mean, she does such different things with the border. The thing she said about boobooboo.com, she said, which of these Halloween scary faces could summon the trick or treat goodies to pile up? Devil, skull, owl, black cat, or witch? The boos are hooked with fuzzy yarn. Think spider webs. So meaning like novelty yarn, right? I was just talking about Klimt and the kit that is going to go out if you're going to get it this month. There's going to be a lot of these kinds of fuzzy, woolly yarns in there. I'm not exactly sure when I made this rug, but it must have been hooked at the height of the .com bubble. Thus, boo.com. I mean, wasn't that funny when that started? Everything was .com, and it drove me crazy too. Everything.com. But it's funny that that was the moment in time that she did this. This is one of my favorites. I'm so delighted to take it out when it's time for Halloween. So the fact that she forgot, she says later in this book, the fact that she forgot when she hooked this rug, she puts a reminder out and says, try to mark your rugs or mark it in your diary, even if you don't have time to mark your rug at that moment. Try to at least mark it in your diary so you remember when you did your rugs, because time does go, doesn't it? That old saying that the years go by fast, the days go by slow. One way or another, it goes, and you lose track of them. So it is good to make a little note about what you are working on. So when you look back at your masterpieces, you remember when and what you were thinking. I want to show you another, this just cute one, Carrot Man. It's like a wall hanging that she did. But it's, I think, so interesting. It's got a three-dimensional nose, and it's got button eyes. And the little pink things are like sewn on stars, this one here. And then she's done, you know, one of those kind of things from the craft store, those fake floral aisle things that you can bend that are wired. What a great way to hang him up. I mean, isn't that great? I thought that was so different. Carrot Man, 2005. A hooking secret is to find a design that you like, and then it almost hooks itself. This little fellow was such a delight, especially hooking the 3D nose. So let's look at a couple more before we stop, because this book is just over the top. Oh, I love this part. At the end, she creates this chapter called Just Stuff, that the works that don't really fit into the prior chapters. And she says, this one, I've got to show you this and the photo of her, which is beautiful. This is her in the 70s in Paris. Let me come closer to get the focus right. Isn't she gorgeous? And she said, the funny thing about this is the 70s. This is when she was at the Sorbonne and she was living in Paris. Very, very chic and French, I'm sure. She's just gorgeous. But she said one of the funny things about this is that at this time, the marathon was a fairly new thing, and there weren't a lot of women running it at all. And you can see in the background, I mean, I don't see another woman in the crowd. It's just her. I know, I'm not getting the focus right for some reason. This camera's really playing up today, huh? But it's a bunch of men sitting around the background. I'm not surprised. I'm surprised they're not all looking at her because she's just so gorgeous. But this one is called. This rug I'm going to show you is called Départ Fini, so beginning and end. It's for a marathon. And she said, a marathon runner since the late, she's been a marathon runner since the late 70s and a Francophile since her Sorbonne days in the 60s. So it was actually in the 60s that she was living in Paris. I ran the Paris Marathon in 1979. This is reasonably early in the running boom, so men greatly outnumbered women marathoners. As a consequence, the French spectators enthusiastically urged on les filles, so the girls, with shouts of encouragement. Like the French, like the New York course, the Paris race route snaked through many of the city's arrondissements, so neighborhoods. It was truly le grand tour, all 26 miles, wow, and 385 yards. The Place de Concorde, with its cobblestones, was both the départ and the fini, the beginning and the end. There's no need to explain the tortoise and the hare. So this is the rug that she hooked as a memory of the Paris Marathon in 1979. She did this in 96. Isn't that great? Such a variation, right? Yes, Anita, I'll attach to this video and I'll post in our Facebook group the Zoom for tomorrow. I'm just starting a new Zoom thing because I can't do what I did last week. It was too crazy. That recurring thing for me, there's enough of a problem that it just doesn't work. So I will send a new number and I'll just do a new number every week. So anyway, this book, I'm just checking to see if there's one. I want to show you all of them, but I don't want to overdo it. This book it's tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of images. More chapters, more fun. Oh, this one I've got to show you. I think this is my favorite. The buck stops here. Let me show you the image first. Pretty familiar, huh? I mean, is that something or what? The buck stops here. So this is what she had to say about this. This made me upset. This was done in 2005. She said, in 2005, the Museum of American Folk Art in New York City sponsored a hooking contest with the theme of American icons. George Washington's portrait on the dollar bill seemed to me the epitome of the American icon on so many levels, both good and bad. The father of our country, the worldwide dominance of the dollar, American materialism, etc. Unfortunately for me, my rug did not make the cut with the judges, even for the semifinals. What? I mean, what? But it was an interesting exercise. That's a nice way to look at it. Because this makes me mad. This is like, I think, the best rug I've ever seen. The winning rug pictured a Colt revolver. And she writes, this is June speaking, of course. I'm not doing a political sort of commentary, but she's saying, what a sad commentary that a gun seemed to the judges to be more of an American icon than George Washington. However, I understand that the gun was beautifully hooked. I'm sure that it was. But honestly, I can't imagine that anything is better hooked than this. Let me see if I can get it in focus. Can you see how she gives his face a little bit of the pinky pinks? And just the color variation is very her. Remember the rug we looked at yesterday? She had a border just on the top and on the bottom. Same thing here, just on the top and the bottom. It really works. Wouldn't you think it would look like it was cropped or something was missing? She's the master of doing these really simple but unexpected compositions, border compositions. I can't say enough about this book. I mean, this is my favorite book now. I love the Mary Shepard Burton book. I love the Edith O'Neill book. For me, this book, as someone who lived in Europe for a long time too, and been in Paris many, many times, a lot of the things really spoke to me. And just she herself, she's just such a cool, nice person. Like a real magnetic person. Anyway, if Wool could talk. So I'm just going to wait for confirmation. I'll check one more time to see if she wrote. Oh, she did. Oh, perfect. I'm checking my phone. She said, yes, please. So you know what? I'm going to say it and then I'll write it and add to she just wrote to me while we were finishing the show. I asked her if it was okay if you would like this book for $30, which is the cheapest you're going to find it for Shorezies. If you could contact her directly. And I just wanted to be sure that she said that was okay before I gave her information. So she said, yes, it is okay. I'm going to post her email onto this video as soon as I close the thread. But she said you could also send her a check, June Myles, and I'll write this in it too. with her street address. So you know what? Instead of saying it, I'll put it into the thread. So you know what? How about you write to me and then I'll give you her street address because it's actually her, it's not a post office box, it's actually her address. If you're interested in this book, send a message to me at ribboncandyhooking@gmail.com and I will send you June's street address and you can send a check. And that probably will work the best. I want to be respectful of her privacy. So that'll be great. But that means that you can get this book for under $200, which is a big deal. It's a big book. I did about 1/20th of what she's gotten here. Every rug has a story. It's super inspiring. I hope to find out more about her. She lives fairly close to me. I would love to see her again and find out more. I think she's an extraordinary person. I don't see a lot about her in the normal sort of circuit thing with the Rug Hooking Magazine and the Athas and stuff. She seems to be kind of doing her own thing, and that makes me even more interested and attracted to the things she does. She's just such a different hooker. That didn't sound right, but you know what I meant. Anyway, I'll ask her about shipping. It's probably media mail, so it's probably US going to be something like 3. But I'll ask her about shipping to add shipping. I'll ask her if it's included in the 30. But I'm going to, as soon as I end the thread, check back on YouTube and click under description I'll put the finished amount and then send me an email at, again, ribboncandyhooking@gmail.com and I'll give you the street address and the total. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for sticking with me that extra half hour. That was a really frazzling half hour for me here with like complete berserko unknown problems with the computer. Booze. Isn't it always an update? Isn't it a thank you, Adobe? Thank you. I will see you tomorrow. Have a great night. I'm going to post the information in the group. Email me, same address, if you want the information to log on so we can talk with each other tomorrow during our Zoom call. We are going to make it work. I promise you tomorrow. I'm not going to go 2 weeks without seeing you. I will see you tomorrow and otherwise back to coffee time on